People often say that it's impossible to describe colors to a blind person, but how would you describe walking to someone who can't? It's a very basic ability that many of us take for granted. ABC 10's Kevin Terpstra spent some time with Molly McGlone, a young woman afflicted by a disease that's confined her to a chair for life. He helps tell her story using some of Molly's own self-composed music.
Imagine not being able to walk from your front door to your car, or even from one end of the room to the other. For Molly McGlone, that's a daily reality. For almost her entire life, she's had a disease called spinal muscular atrophy.
My muscle function, it just decreases rapidly. And then over time, then you just lose your muscle. I used to be able to hold my arms above my head, but now I can't I can't lift them off my armrests.
SMA is a neuromuscular disease passed on genetically, and while neither parent has to have it, both must carry the recessive gene.
1 in 40 people are carriers of this gene, defective gene. And so spinal muscular atrophy is a disease of the anterior horn cells of your spine, not necessarily the disease of the muscle. It's disease of the spine that stops messages being sent to the muscles to grow.
Molly still maintains some mobility though, thanks in part to her power chair, as well as her team of personal care aides.
I think it's just great to point out that we've got an excellent team working with Molly. Her parents are very supportive in the team. They're the driving force behind helping Molly make these choices for herself. And they've done an excellent job in raising a wonderful, beautiful, well-adjusted daughter. So I'm blessed to be able to work with Molly. I'm blessed to have the jobs that I do.
Molly personally chose her aides, a process called self-determination.
I think more people need to know about self-determination, being able to select your own aides, being able to take it upon yourself to be really proactive in your care.
Molly's aides also help her stay focused on her studies as a pre-med student at Northern Michigan University. Knowing what it's like being the patient, she knows her experience will help her develop an excellent bedside manner.
It's scary being a patient. I had some close calls, and when you're that vulnerable and stuff, it's you want someone there you can feel comfortable around and kind of understands you.
In addition to wanting to be a doctor, Molly also composes her own music. It's something she picked up one summer, but it's much more than just a passing interest.
And all of a sudden I just started writing music all of a sudden. I was oh, where did this come from? And then I created a song, and when I created that song, it was the best day ever.
This is a girl that's handicapped, she can't do anything, and here she's composing all this music, and she's building these beautiful videos, and you're just in amazement. Yeah. How is she doing all that? Even my dad asked me, who's playing the instruments? I says, Molly is. Molly's making the music.
And despite living on her own, Molly is grateful for everything her parents have done for her.
They fight tooth and nail for me. They've saved my life a lot, because they know me best.
Pneumonia was the worst thing that she could get.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was times
or
where...
even atelectasis, where her lungs would collapse really
down.
easy.
And so I would carry her and bounce her and jog around the living room and kitchen in circles, jogging. And she'd be beating on me. She'd be hitting me.
Because she's
Stop
tired.
it! Stop it! Here, I don't... And so she would be getting upset, which would start
and the
process.
bouncing would help loosen up her secretions.
So then the process would start where she'd start coughing, then naturally, as best she could.
And then we'd use the machines.
And then we'd use machines to get things rolling.
But for all of the heavy memories, there are plenty of lighthearted ones as well.
I remember one of the first video games she got onto, it was one where there was it was a picture of an avatar or whatever running. And you could just see her, and she was making that thing run, and that was her running.
Yeah.
And you would watch that thing, and Molly, what are you doing? I'm running right now.
And while only being able to run vicariously through that virtual character, Molly has never let her limitation be more than just an inconvenience.
There's not much I can do about it. It's not like I can just feel oh, I don't feel like having this disease, so I'm just, I'm not going to dwell on it. I still got to live my life. I'm not going to just decide, I'm not going to just sit around. That's just not me. I gotta give my life some purpose, give back a little bit.
Molly has already lived a more fulfilled life than many of us, and she still has much more to give.
Yeah.
For ABC 10 and CW5 News, I'm Kevin Terpstra.